Today, we're diving deep into an absolute classic, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. You know, this book came out way back in 1936, but its core message about changing how we deal with people, well, it's just timeless. We're going to unpack the 3 fundamental techniques for handling people that Carnegie lays out right at the very beginning of his book. All right, let's jump right in. To get to the heart of a core truth about human nature, Carnegie takes us somewhere pretty surprising, the minds of some of America's most wanted criminals. And what he uncovers there? Well, it's the key to basically everything else in the book. So let's talk about a guy named Two Gun Crowley. Get this, he wrote these words while 150 police officers were surrounding his apartment in New York City. As bullets were flying, he's writing this letter with blood from his wounds literally staining the paper. Convinced he's just a weary, kind soul. Okay, but here's the kicker. The same guy who saw himself as this kind soul had just, not long before, been stopped by a police officer. And without even a word, Crowley pulled his gun and killed him. And when he was sentenced to the electric chair, did he say, "Yep, I deserve this for killing someone"? Nope. He said, "This is what I get for defending myself." And you know what? This wild inability to blame himself wasn't just a Crowley thing. Al Capone, maybe the most famous gangster ever, seriously thought of himself as a public servant who just wasn't appreciated enough. Same with Dutch Schultz. These guys just did not see themselves as the bad guys. And that is the big aha moment Carnegie wants us to have. I mean, think about it. If these guys, these hardened criminals, don't see anything wrong with what they've done, what are the odds that the regular people in our lives, our colleagues, our family, are going to criticize themselves? The chances are pretty slim. This realization is what leads us straight to the very first of Carnegie's big techniques. It sounds simple, it's incredibly powerful, but man, is it tough to actually do. The bottom line is this: criticism just doesn't work. It's pointless, really, because it just makes people defensive. It hurts their pride, it makes them resent you, and it almost never leads to any real lasting change. All it does is create bad feelings. And hey, even one of the greatest leaders of all time, Abraham Lincoln, had to learn this lesson the hard way. When he was younger, Lincoln actually loved to publicly tear down his opponents, writing letters, even poems, just to ridicule them. And believe me, he learned from the lifelong enemies he made doing it. So let's look at how this plays out during a really critical moment in the Civil War. Lincoln was just beside himself. General Lee's army was basically cornered after the Battle of Gettysburg. This was the chance to end the war, but General Meade just hesitated, and Lee got away. You can imagine Lincoln was absolutely furious. He was so upset, he sat down and wrote this just scathing letter to Meade. And you have to understand, the older Lincoln was a very measured man. So for him to write something like this, it was like a nuclear option. You can just feel the disappointment dripping from every single word. But, and this is the whole point, that letter, it was found in his desk after he died. He never sent it. Why? Because the Lincoln who had learned his lesson knew. He knew that sending it wouldn't help anything. It would just make me defensive and justify himself. It was pointless. Okay, so if criticizing is out, what's the alternative? What are we supposed to do? Well, that brings us right to principle number 2, which is the flip side of the coin. The famous psychologist William James put it this way: it's not just a wish or a desire. It's a deep human craving to feel appreciated. He said it's one of the things that truly separates us from animals. And if you can genuinely satisfy that hunger in people, you'll have more influence than you can imagine. Want to see just how powerful this is? Let's talk about Charles Schwab. This guy was getting paid over $1 million a year by Andrew Carnegie back in the early 1900s. That's like, what, over 30 million today? It's insane. So was he some kind of steel-making genius? No. So what was his secret? It's this right here. Schwab himself said his #1 asset was his ability to get people excited, and he did it with appreciation and encouragement. He made it a point to never criticize anyone. He believed in building people up, not tearing them down, okay? But Carnegie is super clear on this point. This is not the same as flattery. You know, flattery is cheap. It's insincere. It's what Carnegie calls coming from the teeth out. Real appreciation, though, that comes from the heart out. It's sincere. It's unselfish. One is fake. The other is the real deal. All right, so we've got Rule 1. Don't criticize. Rule 2. Give honest appreciation. Now for the third and final fundamental technique. This one is all about how you get people to actually do things. Carnegie's point is pretty simple when you think about it. Everything you've ever done, you did because you wanted something. So it stands to reason, right? The only way to get somebody else to do something is to make them want to do it. Henry Ford, of all people, just nails it with this quote. It's so easy to fall into the trap of talking about what I want, what I need. But guess what? The other person couldn't care less. They're spending all day, every day, thinking about what they want. Carnegie tells this great story from his own life. He was running his lectures out of a hotel ballroom, and one day, boom, they tell him the rent is going up 300%. Now, instead of storming in there demanding they change it, he stopped and thought, okay, what does the hotel want? He went to the manager and basically laid out the pros and cons for the hotel. He admitted they could make more money from big events, sure, but he also pointed out that his lectures brought in tons of educated, influential people, which was basically free advertising. He never said a word about what he wanted. And the result? They didn't triple the rent. They only raised it by 50%. Amazing, right? So when you put these three ideas together, you start to see it's not just about learning a couple of slick tricks to manipulate people. Carnegie is really pushing for something much bigger, a whole new way of looking at your interactions with, well, with everyone. So let's recap. Here they are, the three big takeaways. Number 1, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. It just doesn't work. Number 2, give honest, sincere appreciation. People are starving for it. And number 3, arouse in the other person an eager want. Talk in terms of what they want, not what you want. And you know, Carnegie says if you walk away from his book with just one thing, it should be this habit of always trying to see things from the other person's point of view. If you can master just that one skill, he says, it can literally be a building block for your entire career and your relationships. And that really is the core of it all. Now, it's one thing to hear these ideas and nod along, right? But Carnegie would be the first to tell you that knowledge isn't worth much unless you put it into practice. We only really learn by doing, so I'll leave you with this question. Which one of these principles are you going to try out tomorrow?